the weather for a bit, but hey, we're good. And I'm even feeling better now that I have Wiebe on the by the side after a long time. How are you, Wiebe?
Yeah.
Happy belated birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So yeah, it was my birthday this weekend, so that was good. But actually, even better, I was home in Joss all last week.
Yes, I saw the.
So that was absolutely brilliant. So now I'm back in. I went from Joss to Loss.
I love your love for where you come from, and it's a beautiful thing. And we don't get to see. Yes, I have to draw that line. We don't get to see people of your color who are this. Where this, very passionate.
You have to go there.
Yeah, no, I had to.
Yeah.
I had to.
Oh, okay, because you're blonde also. We're both blonde sometimes. So,
But, good to have you. We have another interesting guest joining us on the show today.
Yes, we do, and actually we have started it, and we've been doing this show over years, and I don't know why Anita hasn't been on before. So it's long overdue. So today we have Anita Otubu, who's the, let me get the exact title, because everyone just knows her as Anita. So she's the head of the program management unit of Nigeria Electrification Project, which is the $500 million World Bank African Development Bank project that goes through the Rural Electrification Agency. So there's a lot of a mouthful, big mouthful, but really Anita is really one of the key people driving off-grid energy and renewables in Nigeria. So Anita, thanks for being on with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and are you in Abuja or where are you today?
I'm currently in Abuja.
You are, okay, because I know you're always off in one location and, commissioning a mini grids and all that. So before we get into it, I think you probably saw this last week, I finally made it to Shimankar, which is one of the mini grids you commissioned, I don't know, 6 months ago or whatever, under your program. It was one we invested in, you guys also invested in. So it's fantastic to see the real thing, and obviously you got to see it a while ago. So what have you been hearing from Shimankar? Are you still excited about that one?
I'm really excited. Honestly, we're getting fantastic reviews from the beneficiaries, from the households, the micro, small, medium-sized businesses there. 24-hour power supply. It's all that we would really ask for under this program. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, now we just have to do these a dozen of these every day, right? And then we can make. But anyway, it's fantastic, and everyone is so excited about it. So, but look, Anita, maybe you can give us a bit of your. Now that you're one of the leaders in this industry, but where were you before REA? How did you build up to get into this space and become such an important player here?
Thanks, Wiebe. It's a bit of a long answer. Well, essentially, I moved to Nigeria about 12 years ago. Never lived in Nigeria before that. So prior to moving to Nigeria, having finished law school, I started working with the British Home Office and the Prisons and Probation Ombudsman's Office in a legal advisory sort of capacity.
The prison?
Thereafter, yeah.
Oh, wow, okay. That's another conversation, I guess. Okay.
Complete. Yeah, and then worked with Tribal Consulting, which essentially is a consultancy firm that provides project management services for government programs in the UK. Thereafter moved to Nigeria, decided to do the NYSC. I did this in NMPC, and after carrying out the NYSC, I realized that I actually like it in my country. Perhaps I'll stay. And subsequently, I then went to law school in Nigeria. Then worked with a law firm called Ina Blankson. Thereafter was appointed as the technical advisor on legal matters in the power sector to the then Minister of Power, Professor Nebo. I then had a short stint with the Transmission Company of Nigeria as an assistant general manager for about 4 or 5 months. And then left to work with DFID, now FCDO's NIAF program, that's the Nigeria Infrastructure Advisory Facility, where I advised on multiple infrastructure projects related to climate change, roads, gas flaring, and the power space. And funny enough, that's where I started working on the Energizing Education program. I was then appointed to work with the advisory power team in the office of the vice president under now SE Farol CEO, Mr. Malola Gumbi. Worked on various programs from MDA debts. So that's where we essentially try to ensure that the distribution companies were receiving what was due to them from our government ministries, departments and agencies. Also worked in the conceptualization of the power sector recovery program, also known as PSRP. In addition to continuing works on the Energizing Education program. When the now SE Furul CEO was appointed to work as the MD CEO of the Rural Electrification Agency. I did join her, and I headed a unit rather called Special Projects, where I then started the implementation of the Energizing Education Program, which seeks to provide, which has actually provided captive independent solar hybrid power plants to 7 federal universities. And might I add that they are actually the largest of its kind in West Africa, currently in operation across 7 of these federal universities. I also project managed the Energizing Economies Initiative before I handed over to my colleague Suleiman, where we implemented a gas-fired power plant in Aria Market in Abia State, Sabongari Market in Kano, and Sura Market in Lagos. So essentially, the Energizing Economies Initiative seeks to provide power to economic clusters such as markets. And then that's when I was then appointed by the new MD, CEO of the Rural Electrification Agency, to head the program management unit for the Nigeria Electrification Project. I told you.
Everything.
Wow.
Everything. That's an amazing CV, though.
Very, very.
From prisons to lighting up Nigeria. So,
I mean, we love it.
Yeah.
Well, our focus today, Nigeria, Lagos, if you're just joining us, is bridging the electrification gap with off-grid solutions. And you heard the voice of Anita Otubu, head of Program Management Unit, Nigeria Electrification Project. Now, you're passionate about climate change. What drives this passion, if I may, Anita?
What drives the passion? The fact that climate change affects lives, means of livelihood, health, and that's why I essentially work in the renewable energy space towards trying to reduce emissions. Secondly, I'm a member of a board for Chanjadati, which is a recycling company as well. Again, towards addressing waste management, pollution, and the like. So essentially, it's because of my passion for ensuring good health and sustainable means of livelihood for not just Nigerians, but for everyone globally.
all right. So, in your role in the REA running the Nigeria Electrification program, I mean, obviously this is a big program and it's very, very central to what REA does now. So I know, I mean, there's 5 components. I know it's quite big, but maybe you can kind of break it down. You talked about the education part already, but maybe just break it down a little bit about what this whole thing is. And then we'll probably follow up with some additional questions.
Okay, sure. So the Nigeria Electrification Project is, as you mentioned earlier, funded by the World Bank and the African Development Bank for a total of $550 million US. It's been implemented by the Rural Electrification Agency. And essentially, the objective is to ensure access to power in our underserved and unserved rural communities, and households, medium-sized businesses, as well as healthcare and educational institutions. It is private sector driven, and as a result, we provide subsidies as opposed to the entire project cost for the majority of the components under the Nigeria Electrification Project. And also, might I add that towards achieving this universal access to electrification, we are essentially trying to bridge this gap through the provision of mini grids, solar home systems, captive independent power plants, and also to stimulate low demand and to make these mini grid communities a bit more attractive and viable through the provision of productive use appliances. So that's essentially the Nigeria Electrification Project in summary.
Well, interesting. But now, the funding secured from both the World Bank and the African Development Bank, that's the AFDB, how's it shared across the different components? And what is the impact of these funding so far?
Okay, great question. So we have a total of 213,000. Oh, let me just be absolutely sure.
Ballpark is fine.
213 million. Sorry, $213 million US for our mini grid components.
Dollars. This is dollars. No be naira. Dollars. Okay.
Thank you, Wiebe. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm writing it.
$213 million US dollars for our solar hybrid mini grids component. So that's as funded by both the World Bank and the African Development Bank. And then we have $75 million US dollars for our solar home system, or our standalone solar home systems component, which is funded only by the World Bank. And then we have a total of $205 million US dollars, which has been put aside by both the World Bank and the African Development Bank for the Energizing Education Program phases 2 and phases 3. Fourthly, we have $20 million US dollars put aside for the productive use appliance component that I earlier spoke about. And then finally, for technical assistance, we have a total of $37 million US dollars. So hopefully, if you do the calculations, it should add up to $550 million US dollars.
All right. I mean, I love that transparent breakdown of because it's very important.
Yeah. So Aditya, I mean, with overseeing all of this, I mean, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? Ensuring that we actually deliver on the objectives, on our targets. Electrifying over 2.5 million people, which roughly equates to about 500,000 households, right? Ensuring that we are able to stimulate the market, make it a bit more attractive and viable for private sector companies to come into the off-grid space to bridge this energy access deficit due to obviously financial constraints that we face on the government end, and also to help with providing that expertise, right? So we're able to achieve overall universal access to electrification. So that's what keeps me up at night, achieving these targets.
Right, and it's so important because every household that's connected, obviously, it's a complete sort of socioeconomic transformation for that family, for their economic possibilities and opportunities. So, yeah, I think we all share that. It is something that it's. The goal is very big and ambitious, and it just takes time. But it's every day we have to push at it to make it happen. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for driving it. All right, Colin.
Indeed. Yeah. So I mean, since 2017, when this project was conceptualized, how would you describe its overall impact on the renewable energy sector in Nigeria?
So the overall impact, first of all. We have up to 100 and counting companies who have signed up to participate under the Nigeria Electrification Project to bridge this energy access gap. Initially, companies were not so confident about entering into this space because they were not sure if there was that enabling environment. So this program, first of all, has shown that some of the regulations that we have, if not all of them, such as the mini grid regulations, that it actually works and has provided that enabling environment. And obviously with the provision of these funds through the federal government of Nigeria, again, that's, another way of showcasing that, look, we're open for business. We need you to come in and help us to bridge this gap. So it's essentially increased appetite, right? We've been able to also secure a lot of counterpart funding. I mean, we have the likes of Orlon that are providing financing for these private sector companies. It has also sort of influenced the conceptualization of the Solar Power Nigeria program, where the federal government of Nigeria are providing low interest loans, to help our local companies actually in both upstream and downstream. So the manufacturing of these solar equipment, and also with the implementation, the construction and the deployment of these solutions as well. So the appetite, number one. Secondly, in terms of what we're able to achieve as a result of this Nigeria Electrification project so far to date, under our mini grid component, we have recorded 3,828 connections. Wow. And we have about 52,424 actually in the pipeline as a result of the grant agreements that we've signed. So we hope to see that at least before the end of this year. Under our standalone solar home systems component of the NEP, I'm pleased to say that we have confirmed deployment of over 221 100,000 solar home systems. And might I add that our midterm target was actually just 100,000. Our midterm target was supposed to be reached as at June of this year, and we've already reached 221,000, which is 221,000, which is very close to the end term target, which is 300,000 households, including micro, small, medium-sized enterprises.
Wow.
So that's what we've achieved so far. We have a long way to go. We have 15 federal universities to also energize. We have 100 isolation and treatment centers to energize, 2 teaching hospitals, 400 primary healthcare centers. But so far, that's what we've been able to achieve so far under the Nigeria Electrification project.
Wow, that's impressive. Over 200,000 for solar home systems. So
very impressive.
So look, you mentioned there's about 100 companies that have registered and gone through the process. I mean, I know it's a very rigorous process actually to get in. So how, if a listener is someone is listening, and this is, we're speaking to mostly Lagos right now, but this is going to be broadcast around different stations in Nigeria. So the whole country will hear this. If someone is running a solar business, how do they get into your program? What are the steps they have to follow to get approved?
Great question, because we need more companies. 100 isn't enough.
You need more than 100. Wow. Okay. All right.
More than 100. I mean, 180 million. Half of them are probably electrified. We need so much more support from the private sector to help bridge this gap. How do you get involved in the Nigeria Electrification project? Firstly, to visit our website, nep.rea.gov.ng. That's nep.rea.gov.ng. All the information concerning the Nigeria Electrification projects and the components thereunder are found there, and the requirements and the steps. Essentially, to go onto this website and identify the component that best suits your interests and your experience and capabilities. You can then go onto the Odyssey platform. Again, this information is on the website. Go onto the Odyssey platform to download the necessary templates, application templates, and then upload it onto the site. We then download it from our end and evaluate. As it concerns mini-grid developers, once you've been able to pre-qualify, we then ask you to submit your communities that you're interested in providing mini-grids in. And we want to be sure that, first of all, it's not connected to the grid. We don't want any issues with the distribution companies. We want to connect those that are completely off-grid, right? Thereafter, we also expect that you have some form of an exclusivity agreement with the community. Does the community actually want you there? Are they happy with the proposal that you are making, right? As well as some other environmental and social requirements that we expect you to satisfy. Thereafter, we enter into a grant agreement with those companies where we agree on the number of connections for those communities and how much we're going to pay. So with the mini grids, we pay the Naira equivalent of $350 per connection. And essentially, because it's performance-based, so it's a results-based financing facility, we pay 40% of the agreed amount at the point of commissioning these mini-grids, and the balance of 60% after 90 days of supply. You may ask, why after 90 days of supply? We have so many abandoned and substandard projects, let's be honest, right? So to ensure that we get value for money and to ensure that we have sustainable projects on ground, we have to at least be able to prove, or the companies have to prove, that these projects are actually in operation and they are fit for purpose. With the solar home system companies, we expect that the solar home systems meet a certain global standard. We then enter into a grant agreement with those companies where we agree, depending on the capacity of those solar home systems, the percentage of subsidy that we're going to give. We give up to 20%, again, dependent on the size of those systems. And then after deployment of these systems, we have an independent verification agent who will verify these claims of connections. And after we receive the report, recommendations are made for payment. And that's the same again, sorry, I forgot to mention, with the mini-grid component. The IVA, the independent verification agent, also verifies these connections for us. Again, we want to be able to show that what people are claiming to have delivered, they've actually delivered in the fit for purpose. With the Energizing Education program, however,
about that, Adita. So if you can continue what you were saying, and then also just a little focus on what women in particular how they can benefit from this, both as the entrepreneurs, but then also for communities. Because I think that's also a very important element of this.
Extremely important, especially as I'm a woman myself. Um, so under our energizing education program, which is a component under the Nigeria Electrification Project, we actually provide training to 20 female students from each of the beneficiary universities in the design and installation of these solar hybrid power plants. So essentially, from the minute the EPC contractors mobilize to the site, the university students, 20 female students from each of these universities are on ground, and they're not there just to take pictures or to write notes. They get their hands dirty, and we have demonstrated this under phase 1 of the energizing education program, which wasn't under the Nigeria Electrification Project, where we had over 180 female students trained, and some of them successfully have gone on to work in renewable energy companies, and they've also benefited from programs such as the one All-On, I believe, held. It was a competition, and they were able to secure a nice considerable amount of money for some of their renewable energy ideas that they came up with. Also, we try to encourage our private sector companies to have at least 30% of their workforce. We try to ensure that 30% of their workforce are women before we do engage them to participate under the NEP.
Well, I mean, it was safe to say that there are indeed a lot of opportunities for women to leverage on, especially those who are in the renewable energy space. And that's a good thing to say, because I know Wiebe is so passionate. Sometimes, I wonder if he has a male staff at all on, But I think it's practicing that well. And I think more people should do it, because women can do better. I believe so. Well, let's wrap up this conversation with your projection, right? What are your projections for the project in the next 2 years?
Okay, next 2 years. So the project, funny enough, ends in 2023, in the next 2 years. Oh. And so I guess the projections are to ensure that we achieve the targets of the project, which is to electrify at least 2.5 million people, roughly 500,000 households, as well as 100 isolation and treatment centers, 400 primary healthcare centers, 2 teaching hospitals, as well as 15 federal universities. Hoping, that's the minimum, right? That's the minimum. Hopefully we can do a lot more than that, but just going by our objectives and looking at where we are so far, the status of implementation of the NEP, that's what I foresee in the next 2 years.
All right, and one final thing.
Okay.
So since it does end in 2 years, you guys must already be planning for what happens after that, right? Because these cycles take a long time. So is there already a discussion on NEP2? Or is that still TBD?
Yes, definitely. I mean, it really depends on the success of this phase, right? So if we're able to truly achieve those targets and perhaps beyond, I'm sure government and the banks, the IFIs, would be more than happy to provide more funding, right, to electrify more households. In addition, if we haven't been able to exhaust all of the funds available, I believe we will still push for additional time or years in order to ensure that we're able to disperse of all the funds, which should obviously ensure more connections and impact.
All right, thank you very much. And for those just joining us, we are wrapping up the conversation. We're done with today's show. It's called Power Solutions, and we've looked at bridging the electrification gap with off-grid solutions. We spoke to Anita Otubu, is the head Program Management Unit, Nigeria Electrification Project. That's NEP. Well done and good luck. In the next 2 years, we look forward to.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
She talks about it in such a like
us,
But it's major, and if they deliver honestly even half of what their target is, it's transformational. And even what they're doing is creating confidence for investors, for entrepreneurs to get into the space. So Anita, thank you for what you're doing. You're articulating it in such a calm way. I don't think anyone really realizes how much is on your head, and even the future of Nigeria's energy space is on your head. So thank you for what you're doing. It's good you came back 12 years ago. You're making such a difference in Nigeria, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. Oh, well, that's it for the show today. And I love your smile, Anita, by the way. And Wiebe, that's
any final word, Anita?
No, just to really thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak about the Nigeria Electrification Project. A lot of people don't know, about the program. They're not really aware of the federal government of Nigeria's efforts. So thank you so much for this platform. I really appreciate it.
All right. Have a great week.
Well, that's it, guys. Next week, we'd have a bumper package on the show. We have something new to introduce next week on the show. You don't want to miss it. Nigerians, everyone should be a part of Power Solutions next week.
All right, sounds good. I'm excited too because I'm actually not sure what you're talking about, but we'll be there.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Great.
Guys.
All right. Thanks, Anita.
From dusk till dawn, 99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info.